Kamala Harris getting a wake-up call from American voters as she braces for 2024. The vice president continues to face fierce criticism from Republicans and members of her own party for stumbling in interviews and making minimal, if any, progress on the tasks assigned to her, notably the southern border. But former White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain is now rushing to her defense, claiming it's not her fault that people don't seem to like her. Watch.
Well, I do think sexism and racism are part of the problem, no question about it. I think that, she just hasn't had the right, she hasn't gotten the credit for all that she's done.
What's that? And while White House allies try to repair the vice president's image, it seems like the American public isn't buying it. The latest Fox News polling shows just 41% of voters have a favorable opinion of Vice President Harris. 57% have an unfavorable opinion of her, and only 43% say they approve of the job she's doing in office. Chris, possible 2024 presidential candidate Tim Scott told Fox on Wednesday, the only thing worse than a Joe Biden presidency is a Kamala Harris presidency, and it seems like the American people agree.
Yeah, he definitely took some shots for sure. But it doesn't all, first of all, what she represents for women and minorities in the office is spectacular. And we have to acknowledge that. But it's not always about gender and identity. How about just the fact that it could be about leadership, and poor leadership at that? And the fact that you have a job, you've been entrusted by the American people to do something. And if you're not doing that job, we have the ability to hold you accountable for that. You're the border czar. I live in a border state of Texas. We spend billions of dollars a year on border security in the state of Texas. Where is a plan? Where is the plan not only for border security, but to maybe fix the broken immigration system that has to do with visas and the fact that nearly half of the illegals in this country came legally on a broken system? There's so much that needs to be done, but we also have to acknowledge it's not her problem. This is our problem. We have forgotten the fact that we are a team in the United States, and team is together, each achieves more. And a great team has a great coach. And we've put great coaches, or at least we've elected coaches that we hope are great. Sometimes they're not, and we've got to hold them accountable to that, because a great coach is a great leader. And right now we're not getting good leadership. And I think that's the issue.
Yeah, respectfully, I disagree. I think simply because she's an utter failure. So to me, Casey, I don't see her as a representative or model in any form. I don't believe someone holding an office means anything until they perform. That's a position of service. She has exhibited no form of leadership, no form of accomplishment, as evidenced in part, I would say, by how many have departed her office. Certainly, at a minimum, she's not maintaining any type of inspiring environment. Because a lot of people have been running for the hills the whole time.
Right, you say she's the border czar, so that she is tasked to be the coach of that. Let's say that's that. Right. Yeah. She's tasked to be the coach of her staff. 17 have departed since she took office. I mean, you hear these stories coming out, and it's just sad. I mean, let's look at the Democratic Party. You have these superstars, so you want to tackle sexism. You have Hillary Clinton. You have Michelle Obama, who wasn't an elected official, but she is a shining star of the Democratic Party. You have Nancy Pelosi. I mean, you can't argue with their accomplishments, and it's just falling flat, and it's unfortunate.
And interestingly, Jerry, to that point, when Ron Klain says, well, sexism and racism are part of the problem, he says she hasn't gotten credit for what she's done. The issue is evidenced by the fact that no one is able to articulate what she's done. Give me specificity and an articulable accomplishment that she has done that has bettered America in any one of the, 6, 7 titles that she has. I haven't seen one yet, and they haven't either. That's why they're unable to articulate it. But don't forget, it's just about her skin or her gender.
Well, to that point, if I were her today, what I would do is call Ron Klain, and I would call him out, and I would say, stop making excuses for me. I am not a victim. You're embarrassing me in front of the entire country. It's not sexism. It's not racism. This isn't what it's about. Do you think Indira Nooyi, who was the CEO of PepsiCo for 12 years, that's just unheard of, being CEO for 12 years. The average length of time people serve 5 years. Do you think she said, I'm Indian, it was racist, I'm a woman, it's sexist? No, she never said that. If you want to lead, look, she has a seat at the table. She is Vice President of the United States. She's a heartbeat away from being the leader of the free world. You have the keys to the kingdom. Move, right?
Lead.
Yeah, and part of my problem with this administration, Kayleigh, and specifically with Biden and Kamala, is the fact that, leadership includes humility. Leadership includes acceptance of responsibility, not just inspiring and taking action. And all we get from this administration is blaming others. It's an abject refusal to take responsibility for the consequences of their decisions or utter lack thereof, or everything was Trump's fault. Let's watch an example of the fact that Kamala Harris continues to blame Trump for the border crisis.
Under the prior administration, they essentially dismantled the system and broke it. And we have been, since we came in office, attempting to fix it in a number of ways, which includes more judges, more personnel, making sure that we secure the border, but that we have also an immigration system that is fair and humane.
The blaming Biden administration, that's what they should be called, because they continue to blame. It's not just Ron Klain who says it's sexism and racism. It's also Jen Psaki. She said that about Kamala Harris. It's also Kamala Harris's own staff. According to Axios, Harris's allies point out she has faced sexism and racism and argue that the White House has not helped her enough. So they're saying the White House now, they're blaming each other even within. So it's not just blame Trump, it's like blame others in my administration. It's nuts. But I also want to point out, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention today, Biden is at his historic low in approval, 37% according to Gallup, and it comes hand in hand with the economy getting pretty bad marks. Economies, 16% say the economy is good. Just a word of warning to Republicans. It used to be the old adage, you know, it's the economy stupid. Well, it wasn't the economy stupid in the midterms. The economy had low markings and Democrats did very well. So we've got to come up with a new playbook, the Republicans do, because the economy being bad, Biden being unpopular, it's simply not enough to get across the finish line.
Take heed. Listen to Kayleigh on that. All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.